Welcome back to the video lecture series for Introduction to the Art of Programming Using Scala. Given what you've just learned about class declarations and object declarations, it's worth taking a bit of time to go revisit the API and to go look at what's in the API and help figure out how to read it. Up until this point, in some ways, you've had to be a little bit more scattershot in your approach to reading the API, because you haven't necessarily had the knowledge to really understand exactly what was going on. There's still things that you can't read at this point, but by understanding class declarations, by understanding object declarations, by knowing how the methods get put in and whatnot, hopefully you can see, understand what's going on in the API a lot better. So if we look at the API here, something that you might have noticed in the past is that next to any of these names here, there are little circles and letters. The one column is all O's, and not everything has an O. And the other column is either C's or T's, and every so often there are things that don't have a C or a T as well. Well, at this point you can probably figure out that the O is for an object declaration, and the C is for a class declaration. And when you have both of these next to one another, you have a class and its companion object. Okay, so let's go look at some particular type that might be interesting. Okay, so for example, the option type. Okay. Normally, if you just click on option, it takes you to this page right here. It's the class for option, and there's lots of nice documentation up at the top, and then the list of different methods that you have for your option as well. This is all stuff, this is basically coming from the option class. And in fact, the way that the API is generated is you run a tool called Scala doc, and it takes literally the source code that you have and it spits this out. And if you want this extra documentation, you just put in special types of comments, and we'll talk about that more later. But option also has a companion object, and you can either get to it by clicking over on the O over here, or you might notice this little icon has a pullback on it so that you can quickly swap between the two. So this is the declaration for the object option. And it doesn't have much in it, but it does have an apply method. And so, for example, this apply method is exactly the type of thing that we did in our vect3, where we put in an apply method that could take an x, y, and a z. In the case of an option, so there are two types of options. There's the sum and the none. Which you should remember from earlier in the book. None implies that so an option type in general means that you might get a value or you might not have one. And so none implies that you don't have the value, and sum implies that you do have the value. And if you call apply, so option, if you create using option, in fact we can do this here. Let's go ahead and let's make a little instance of Scala. And that right there is, of course, invoking the option.apply of 3. We saw that previously. But you'll notice that what it returns to us is not just an option, it's a sum. Okay? And the thing about the way this works is if you do an option on null, that's when you get back none instead of a sum. So this is one of those examples where the extra flexibility of having an apply method makes things much more useful, in that it can give you back something that is of the appropriate type. If we were to go down to, for example, the collections, let's look in immutable collections. And for example, the list. List is a class. The list class has a companion object associated with it. And this companion object has an apply method, which takes a var args, so however many arguments you wish to pass in, and it gives you back a list of that type. The empty method just gives you back an empty list. And there are some other things that are inside of here that we won't go into at this point. But so hopefully that makes it so it's a little bit easier to understand. And of course, these methods that are in here, it shows you kind of what they wrote. Now, you can't read all of this yet. We still need to go a few more chapters before all of the details of a lot of these will make sense. But now you've seen that, hey, you can write a method that is named : plus. Scala will allow you to do that. And in fact, all you would have done here would have just put an equal sign and some curly braces and actually put the code that goes inside of it. So hopefully you now have the ability to read the API a little bit better, because you will still need to be doing that. You're not going to memorize every single thing that's in the API, and you need to be able to go to it and look things up on your own. Now, one other, okay, we'll go ahead and stop this video here, and I'll do another one. The next video we'll talk about the meaning of case classes, because we saw case classes long ago, and now we're just introducing the normal concept of a class, and it's worth describing what exactly it is that the case class is adding on for you.